has this now been more widely seen? I mean, in terms of the movie that you did, has that been more widely seen?
Is it, as far as what's happening now in America?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exploding. It's exploding over there.
But this one, but the Paul McGann and Daphne Ashbook,
yeah, I mean, this is another thing. They're doing the Revisited thing. I don't know if you guys know this on BBC America. They're doing the Revisited, right? Series. So each month they choose a doctor and they show an episode. And of course they had our movie show.
Which one they're going to choose?
And I don't know. And they showed it, and that was only the second time it's ever aired in America.
Wow.
Since, once in '96. So if you were old enough to have recorded it on your VHS, you had a copy. Otherwise you didn't. And then they aired it one more time. And actually, it's so pleasing for me to go out there and have people say, I saw your thing last month, and usually it's sort of, I have to kind of explain things. So I do feel like I've been in the wilderness years over in America, because I'm sort of like, okay, let me explain who I am and why I'm here. And I mean, there are the diehards that know, certainly.
But some new kids, or at least the people coming to it now, have seen it for the first time.
Seeing it for the first time, I had just one young girl come up and she just started to weep. And so then I did too. We were weeping. Like, yeah, she's this little girl, and she was just like, and she's like, oh, it's okay. It's so cute, and so it's all starting to catch up.
And I remember distinctly sat there with Syl, just trying to give you a potted history. Just after sex.
And I still didn't get it.
The last 30 years.
I'm still catching up. I will always be catching up.
We'll join the club.
And Paul, from your point of view, I mean, there's nothing the British media loves more than speculating about who is going to be the new Doctor Who. And obviously there was a massive kind of speculation. And
actually, that's not true.
No. Maybe we should insert.
At the moment, it's who's going to be in the 50th. That seems to be the national sport. Who is or who isn't in the 50th. I'll take your point.
In 6 weeks' time, that will all be forgotten, won't it? The 50th will be gone. We're on to the Christmas one then. And, but from your point of view, obviously, eventually, you did, you were revealed as being the new Doctor. But your agent is Tegan from the 5th Doctor, Janet Fielding, or she was your agent. And what does she say to you about the role, and how did that kind of come back from her point of view?
Again, it happened fairly quickly. Maybe 6 months, which is quite quick. I was always under the impression, till about 20 minutes ago, seriously, that Phil Segal had seen this TV show that I'd done with my brothers on BBC the year before, this hanging there. Because of the way that I was dressed, and I had this long hair, and there was this 1850s, 1840s priest in this thing. Because Phil had told me that, he said, that's when I knew. He said, that's Europe. So that's when we started to chase you. That was 94, so that was the year before. But I was just told backstage that no, it was 3 years before. Maybe, I can't compute. But I've always believed that that's what it was. And Segal then got in touch and said, come and...
I know he wanted you right from the start.
Yeah.
I had other ideas, of course.
I'm sorry. But anyway, I got a call and to go and meet John Hubbard, who was doing the casting, and read with John. But so did my brother Mark. So I was under the impression that Phil actually couldn't tell us apart. so we both auditioned. You can find these auditions now on YouTube. Yeah, you can see them.
You weren't in the shop, it was just on him, but you might very well have been. Was he there?
John. Sorry, what was the question?
The new question is, in terms of obviously shooting this, which was kind of standalone, but also was kind of pilot in the sense that it could have been picked up.
It was a pilot.
And had you signed up for more if it had been sort of greenlit, so to speak?
Yeah, the standard contract for a North American pilot, I think it's probably still the same now, isn't it? Even to shoot a pilot as a performer, you have to sign a 6 or 7 year contract.
So you're kind of making a commitment in that sense to actually be with the show and obviously.
You are, and the commitment in a sense is one-sided, because if the pilot doesn't get picked up, you're out on your ear,
Right.
as happened in this case. But no, it's 6 or 7 years, and I've never signed such a thing before. I don't know if you've ever done it before.
I have done a number of times, yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's slightly in the abstract. I mean, the pilot might go for 6 months, it might go for a year, but you're with it for the duration anyway. But we signed these contracts.
You did. I don't think anyone else did. I certainly didn't.
Yeah, I had to.
I remember talking to you at the time about where you was talking about where you're going to live and if it happened in fact.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, presumably, isn't it? Because if you've got your
Yeah.
own family and you've got to think about school and all the rest of it.
Yeah, the boys were little, 5, 6 years old, and despite, you know, and we shot this thing in Vancouver, which is a nice city, a good place to work. You know, we were looking at schools and houses in the bay, that kind of thing. So in that, you know, in a sense, you know, you have to do it because it may happen. But also, I think we all were fairly au fait with the likelihood, the probability actually was against us. You know, most pilots don't get made or go to scenes
Sorry.
and we were right in this case, but that's how actors tend to live, you know.
And there was a decision to bring Sylvester McCoy back in to kind of pass the baton over to you, which on one hand obviously completely fulfilled the kind of the fans' kind of, you know, sort of loyalty and so forth, rewarded them. But on the other hand, it could have ended up being kind of confusing. I mean, how did that go down from the American audience point of view, Daphne? Did that confuse people? Did they get
Did you understand about the regeneration?
Well, I read the script, you know, and I was fascinated, and it certainly explained, you know, what I started finding out about it later, which is how come there's so many different you know? But when I read the script, that's what sold me. I was excited as can be by that. I mean, I knew this was something different. And then as I learned more and more, I understood it because of the regeneration.
Yeah.
Plus, my favorite part about that is that I got to meet Sylvester McCoy, who I love so much and adore. And so that gave me a chance. And you know, he's always entertaining, isn't he? He was there playing his spoons, and it doesn't get better
That's
than
a
that.
euphemism.
It does not get better than that. I mean, absolutely. And so, yeah, it was brilliant. And so I immediately knew this was different, and it was exciting. And so, if the rest of America were like me, then yeah, that worked. I don't know. I don't understand all the different ins and outs.
And Geoff, did you have any concerns in terms of, it's such a very British kind of institution, Doctor Who, or certainly has been until then, and this whole kind of decision of kind of taking it over the Atlantic and obviously, you know, it's set in America and so forth. I mean, did you have any concerns, or were you just thinking this really is a completely new show and that's the way you have to deal with it?
Well, I felt that it was a completely new show, but what was interesting is that sometimes I've read criticism about it was that, you know, the Americans have now done Doctor Who and Americanised it, whereas in fact, Phil Seagal's Brit, Matthew Jacobs, who wrote it, was a Brit, Joe Wright, the producer, is British, I'm British, Paul's British. It was effectively a British show that we just moved over there, and it was set in San Francisco. So I wasn't that worried, because I thought we're just doing the next one and the next Doctor, and it felt to me like it just happened to be an English show that we filmed abroad, really. So I didn't know that.
And did you actually travel to San Francisco at any point of the shoot?
No. There are a few shots of San Francisco which were library shots, so I think maybe we sent another camera there. I can't remember now to do a few bits and bobs, but it was everything was done in Vancouver.
We've touched on sort of, you know, the casting, obviously Paul being in the role and so forth, but obviously one of the standout sort of casting performances is the voice of the Daleks. I wonder if you could tell me about that.
Well, that was quite interesting because I don't know if for those who don't know, when you finish the film, you edit it together, and then you go into the dub, and that's where all the sounds mixed. All the sounds come in, and that and the other, and of course sometimes the actors come in, and if it was noisy like it was, sometimes they come and done their voices, and then there was a blank, and it said, you know, voice to be added. So we got to the mix, and I said, right, run it. The music came up. It was all very exciting. It's starting to sound like a movie now. And suddenly this voice came up going, exterminate, exterminate. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, it's the Dalek. And we don't know what a Dalek was. So, you know, I had to explain. And it had been a loop group guy. They call them the loop group. They come in, they do, you know, if there's a newscaster or, you know, that sort of thing on police radios, they come in and do all that, and one of these guys, they said, Bart, or whatever his name was, you're Dalek. So then they said to me, well, what's it like? And I kind of did a cod version of it, and they just looked at me. So we sent and got one of the original episodes, and then no one could do it, so I kind of did it in a sort of cod Dalek voice. And then they added the on, and I said, that sounds like it, and I was quite proud of it until we were off the road. Terrible.
Still it,
So only Nicholas Bruce could have been there.
Yeah.
So, Daphne, from your point of view, obviously, there's one scene that takes place in the hospital, obviously, with your doctor and so forth. And do you actually kind of go and research stuff like that?
No, I didn't have a lot of time for that. I really didn't. They did have someone on the set, though, advising, someone who knew what the heck I was doing. And they would say, you remember? Yeah. So they were very hands-on at that point. But we were rushed. I don't know what was going on. I remember that was being one of the few times that I really felt like we were moving. We had to get this done kind of fast. I don't remember why. Do you?
No, it was just the whole thing was I think we shot the whole thing in 28 days, which is pretty tight for something with that ambition. But you always have a medical advisor, and they're great up to a point, and then you want to punch them.
We can't do that.
They'll say, no, you wouldn't. They say, well, we're not doing a documentary, it's a drama. And I think the guys, she really wouldn't have two hearts.
That's the point.
I think we sort of do it, and then just...
I have to just really quickly say, since this is the first time I've seen you since we shot it, and I haven't seen you at any other events like this where we get to discuss what happens. I just have to say thank you for being so wonderful and for casting me. And that's all I And so thank you.
Thank you.
And it was a lovely set to work on. I had the best time with these guys. It was just wonderful.
You know what? I feel like Scylla on Surprise Surprise. I've reunited as well.
I remember there was one time when we were outside doing that sequence outside where they first kissed, and Paul said, what does all this mean? And at that time, we got to turn back time. And I said, I don't know, but if you say it quickly... so rattleback, and I don't know, because none of us knew, we just go, and Matthew, the writer, wasn't there, so we just say it fast, and then no one understood. And then they all played themselves, and I didn't quite get that.
It's interesting, isn't it? There was this sort of, obviously on one hand, embracing the past as like the seal of Rassilon and the Master and the TARDIS and the Sonic Screwdriver and with Sylvester coming to the generations, there's lots of the old stuff in there, but obviously you have to make it new as well. And there were a few controversial elements. One you just referred to, which is the kiss, and the other about the whole thing about whether
Don't say it. Say it.
Don't say it.
Don't. Oh my God.
half human.
Said it.
So the kids, yeah.
What was the elephant in the room?
We've said it now. Once again, could you ever have imagined all these years later that this would be something that would still be discussed in forums around the world?
Anyone?
At the time, it was like, wasn't it? It was like, you can't
I didn't know.
We don't know.
You didn't even tell me on the set.
I just thought it was in the script. You kiss, yeah, fine, action, kiss.
Yeah. That's what it was. You knew, right? You knew that there might be something about it.
Only because
There'd be some reaction.
Yeah.
Phil said something?
on that day,
Yeah.
said this will go down.
I never heard
Elliptical. No, I didn't know. I didn't realise you couldn't do it.
Oh, you guys
He felt it was all right. Because he was so...
Anyway, they're doing it now, aren't they? Everybody does it.
Yeah, right?
Everybody does it.
You know,
We're trendsetters.
Yeah.
Pioneers.
yeah. We cut the other scene, didn't we? The bedroom scene.
Start rumors.
Talking of cut scene, is there anything that you can remember that you shot that wasn't used?
I think so.
No, I think it was... I can't remember.
You would remember.
Gigi said, I don't know if we'd actually shot this version, but there was a different version about how he died, wasn't there in the script? I'd forgotten this, and as a matter of fact, maybe I didn't even know, but he said that there was a certain way he was supposed to die, that the master was going to do something horrible and that was cut because it was too intricate?
I think
Too
what
much.
it was is that when we first cut it together with the breaking of the neck, we put in a temporary mix. We put in a horrendous bone crack. Right?